Hello and welcome to our Flip video lesson 1.03, An Empire Threatens. So this is where you'll find your recording. If you'd like to watch the recording of this video again, you can look at the PDF and click on one of these links, either Google, Screencast, or YouTube. So learning objectives of this lesson: describe the main accomplishments and characteristics of the Persian Empire and its leaders. Locate on a map the borders of the Persian Empire at its height, its capital, and the countries that lie within its ancient borders today. Explain the importance of Athenians' victory in the Persian Wars, and identify the Oracle of Delphi, and then summarize the main points of the First and Second Persian Wars. So some of these objectives we won't go over during this Flip video, but it is covered during your reading time in the required reading. So again, it's always important to do the reading so you can tie everything together with the Flip videos, the readings, and the class sessions. Table of contents: introduction, the Persian Wars and Empires. Student guide questions, student guide pages 271 to 274. We're going to go over some important vocabulary, so make sure you use the vocabulary to help with your understanding of the lesson. And then your Human Odyssey reading pages 298 to 306. Okay, 1.03, An Empire Threatens. This is the introduction. The Persians came to power in the 6th century BC. They joined forces with another group called the Medes and took control of Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. In a very short time, under Cyrus the Great, they controlled a huge swath of land that extended from the eastern edge of Europe to the western rim of the Indus River Valley. After Cyrus died, his son assumed power and added Egypt to the empire. But he died soon afterward. His successor, Darius, wanted to bring more lands under control of the Persian Empire. He began looking west towards Greece. So this is just a little sidebar on the Oracle of Delphi. Delphi was an ancient religious sanctuary dedicated to the Greek god Apollo, developed in the 8th century BC. The sanctuary was home to the Oracle of Delphi and the Princess Pythia, who is famed throughout the ancient world for divining the future and was consulted before all major undertakings. So divining means godlike, and then consulted. So was spoken to before any major undertaking, any major events that would take place or happen. So go ahead and open your student guide to page 272. It actually starts on 271, but we'll start work on page 272. So go ahead and open that up. And then on this slide, I just went ahead and put the answers. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Question number 1 says, if you were to use the maps on pages 300 to 301 and 626 to 630, you can go ahead and open your Human Odyssey book, so your reading book. You can go ahead and look at those, but your student guide will be page 272. Okay, so I'll give you a quick second. Open your student guide to page 272, and then open your Human Odyssey book, your reading book, to pages 300 to 301, and then you may have to flip to 626 and 630. And you can pause this video to do it on your own, or you can go ahead and follow along with us here. Now, so question number 1, at what longitude was the westernmost point of the Persian Empire at its peak? And that would be 20 degrees west. So remember, longitude are those areas that go up and down, but they measure east and west. Question number 2, what 2 seas were part of the northern border of the empire? That was the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Question number 3, along what river was the southernmost part of the empire? That was the Nile. Question number 4, along what body of water was the original part of the Persian Empire? That's the Persian Gulf. Question number 5, at what latitude was the center of the original empire? And that would be 30 to 33 degrees north, so that's a latitude line. Remember, latitude measures north and south. Question number 6, what natural feature formed the eastern boundary of the empire? That would be the Indus River. Question number 7, consider what you know about the physical geography of the region shown on the map. You have studied the geography of Egypt and Mesopotamia. What explanation can you give for the fact that Cyrus or Darius did not claim the land between the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf? So the land there is desert. Remember that when we studied Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt? So the land there is the desert. There's better land in the Fertile Crescent. Remember that great growing area? And few people lived on the Arabian Peninsula. Question number 8. Rounded to thousands, how many miles between Cyrene in North Africa and the point where the Indus River meets the 30-degree north latitude line. So if you use that key, you can go ahead and measure, but it's about 3,000 miles. And then question number 9, you can see the Persian Empire was big, very big. What present-day countries lie within its ancient boundaries? Use the map of Eurasia on page 626 in your text to find out. To orient yourself, use the latitude and longitude lines on the empire map as well as physical features like rivers and seas. So you can go ahead and take a look at that map. You can flip to page 226 and you'll see that map of Eurasia. And so the current countries are Turkey, Syria, Jordan, Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Okay? So you can go ahead and you can always pause this video at a later date, or you can look at the PDF if you need to write down those answers. All right. So this is documenting the Persian Empire. You don't need to write any of this down. So don't look at this and think, oh my goodness, Mrs. Edgar, how am I going to write this down? It's on page 273. I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and you can follow along. The Persians began to expand their empire in the middle of the 6th century BC. They joined forces with another group called the Medes and took control of Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. In a short time, under Cyrus the Great, they had taken control of a huge swath of land extending from the eastern edge of Europe to the western rim of the Indus River Valley. Cyrus was an able warrior and made good use of the fine horses that thrived in the valley pasturelands of the Zagros Mountains. The mountains provided iron for weapons as well, but Cyrus kept control in other ways besides military force. Cyrus allowed conquered peoples to keep their traditions and cultures. He prayed to the Babylonian god Marduk and began the rebuilding of the Hebrew temple in Jerusalem. He established provinces throughout the empire and appointed governors to oversee them. The result was peace and prosperity greater than anyone had seen before. After Cyrus died while fighting a battle east of the Hindu Kush Mountains near India, his son came to power. Cyrus's son added Egypt to the growing empire, but died soon afterwards. His successor was Darius. Darius continued the policy of dividing the empire into provinces and sent a satrap, usually someone of royal or noble blood, to each province. But Darius didn't leave the satraps unsupervised. Inspectors followed them, and secretaries used the official language of Aramaic to communicate with Darius. Using roads that were better than any built before that time, messengers traveled as much as 200 miles in a day. Darius appreciated the best of what he saw in the cultures he conquered. When he had a new capital built at Persepolis, he used architectural designs and artistic styles from Egypt, Greece, and Babylon. He introduced Indian religious ideas in Persian religion and brought farming techniques from Babylon to Central Asia. By the time of his death, Greeks on the west coast of the Aegean Sea were raising crops of Indian rice, and that's a great example of diffusion. Remember, diffusion is that movement of ideas, cultures, that movement of ideas from place to place. So go ahead and take a look now at page 274, documenting the Persian Empire. So this is where we're going to go ahead and put some facts about the accomplishments and describe what Cyrus I did, and then Darius I. So you can go ahead and fill these in as I'm reading them. So Cyrus I took control of Babylon. He allowed conquered peoples to keep their traditions and cultures. He began rebuilding the Hebrew temple in Jerusalem. He established provinces and appointed governors, and he ruled over a peaceful and prosperous empire. And just kind of one quick note, allowed conquered peoples to keep their traditions and cultures. That was huge. That was something new. Typically when rulers came in and took over, they said, okay, out with the old, in with the new. You know, you can no longer believe what you believe. You can no longer have your own culture. You're going to do it this way. And Cyrus, as he was taking over these places, said, you know, he was tolerant of the fact that people could keep their own traditions. They could keep their own cultures. Okay, and then Darius I sent satraps to each province, used Aramaic as the official language, built good roads, appreciated the best of what he saw in the cultures he conquered, introduced Indian religious ideas into Persian religion, and brought farming techniques from Babylon to Central Asia. Vocabulary is key to understanding comprehension. So the word conquest is the assumption of control of a place or people by use of military force. An institution is an established law, practice, or custom. Religious tolerance is the ability or willingness to tolerate someone's religious opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. And that's, as you notice, with Cyrus. And then vast is of great extent or quality, immense. So vast means large areas. Reading, again, is key to understanding comprehension. So you're reading pages 298 to 306. As I said in the beginning, make sure you are completing your reading that ties together these lessons. Our quote section, the Harper Book of Quotations. War is the Unfolding of Miscalculations by Barbara Tuchman. And then we come to the end of our flip video. The secret to your future is hidden in your daily routine. Always do your best. Thank you so much for joining me today.